Hello, and welcome back to Persimmons and Paperbacks. My name's Ellie.
I'm AJ.
And today we will be going through our March TBR a little late.
Yes.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, for me, I've collected a lot of books on my to-read list for the year in general. But I guess overall for March, I want to complete our challenge of doing 2 weeks of only reading Palestinian authors. And I'm also just generally interested in reading, more radical literature, like Afro-pessimism, Afrofuturism, things like that. I can start with my non-Palestinian books, because there's fewer of those. In terms of the other books I wanted to read, the first one is Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. I feel like I've read, not a lot of foundational text, but I feel like I've read a good amount of foundational text, and this is just one that keeps coming up, I think, especially with all that's happening in Palestine and the connection to the Algerian Revolution. I think a lot of people are referring to Fanon and Fanonian colonialist theory, and I think it just feels like I am behind the times, and I'll be reading hopefully all of his books. That is on my immediate to read list for this month.
So my, I guess I can also start with the books that aren't going to be in our challenge of reading only Palestinian authors for 2 weeks, but I am buddy reading The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which I feel like I really loved their short story collection, so I'm really excited for it. And also one of my really close friends from college is addicted to her writing, so I feel like I'm really excited for that. Plus, I also have the second book for it literally on my bookshelf.
Wow.
So after reading that, I'll be just reading the second book,
Beautiful
which
copy.
is The World We Make. Shout out to Unabridged Bookstore because it was literally $5, I think.
Oh,
or
for
less.
that? It's
yeah.
beautiful.
And it's beautiful and definitely new and hardcover. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, the next book I have is A Love Song for Ricky Wilds by Tia Williams. I think I missed the signing event or something for this, but this just came out, and I love Tia Williams, or I loved 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, so I'm by default a Tia Williams stan. I tried reading, I can't remember, the name is escaping me right now, but it was maybe it was called Perfect Day or something, but it was it was one of their earlier books, and it ended up being a Gabrielle Union Netflix movie or something. But I started reading it, and it was a little bit cringy, the sort of millennial language they were using, so I couldn't get through that one. Maybe The Perfect Find. Anyways, I'll insert the name here, but I'm excited to read this book, and it sounded really good. It's basically a magical realist romance book set across 100 years. Other than that, I don't know too much about it, besides the fact that it's about two artists and their life in New York and seems to cross time, and I feel like all those things sound amazing, and I'm hopeful this could potentially be my 5-star romance that I've been looking for, so fingers crossed.
Yeah. Break the streak of hell romance.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so my next book that I want to read is Madame Bovary by Flaubert, which is part of my, goal to read more classics this year, but it is really dense, and also I did start reading it last month, but yeah, I just really want to get through it. I'm you know what, if it sent the French public into a tizzy back in the day, and they were wow, I'm Madame Bovary, and then he had to be no, I'm Madame Bovary, maybe there's something to it. So yeah, I am maybe 60 pages in.
How long is it?
It's not that long. It's 300
it's
something.
Dense. Yeah.
But there's just the end of chapters, they immediately start the new chapter on that page too. So it's just super
that's
dense.
weird.
Anyways, and really small text.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to read that in March and hopefully finish it in March.
Very exciting. My next book is also one that I started in February. Sort of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. I feel like I've maybe talked about it on this channel. I've just heard comparisons to Fonda Lee's Greenbone Saga series, Jade City, and I feel like I really like epic fantasy. It's about the Kaigen Empire, which is this fictional empire, and basically they fight intruders, but they also have internal turmoil between these different sword fighting families. and yeah, like these rival families and stuff. So far it's really good. It's very, the world building is definitely a lot, which I like do really enjoy. But I'm also reading it with a couple of friends, and they both don't read fantasy / fiction at all. So I'm excited for like their response and for us to like read that together. But it's really good so far. And then the other book that I had that I'll go over quickly is Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler. And I haven't started it yet. I've downloaded it though, and yeah, just a sequel to Parable of the Sower, and I'm excited to read that in March as well.
Okay, so my last book that's not one of our books for specifically reading Palestinian authors is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, which I think you've actually talked about on this channel before.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like usually I don't really love like, oh, someone dies and then, you know, what happens after books. But I feel like a lot of people have recommended it to me.
Really?
And so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. It was like, wow, this audiobook is available now, and I was looking for stuff on Libby, so I was like, sure, I'll give it a try. I'm not that far in, like I think I'm listening to it instead of like actively reading, but I'm like only like maybe like 50 minutes into it right now. But it seems like compelling so far. Definitely like stressful a little bit. But yeah.
I think we had a friend who really, really liked that book, and I really didn't like it. But I feel like it's worth a shot. It was definitely compelling. Okay, cool. And now moving into our, Palestinian authored books for March. I guess like one thing I've been thinking a lot about, and I think that kind of has been driving my desire to do this challenge is like, I went to a talk by Rashid Khalidi last weekend, and they were talking a lot about epistemicide and just how like in genocide a lot of times like cultural elements are like erased or like really tampered, and that's a very obviously like, intentional way that imperialists are able to erase like the literal people from the land. So I'm really interested in this topic, so like maybe we'll do like a full video kind of looking at this topic as a whole. But I think one of the key points being that people are like themselves like vestiges of like knowledge, and they possess a lot of the knowledge of the culture and land. So an easy way to target the culture and a group of people is by like killing these people that possess this knowledge. So they're doing that with like burning like libraries and universities, and targeting like poets and artists and things like that. But I think it definitely speaks to the importance of like literature, film, poetry, all of these beautiful like art crafts where this knowledge can be passed throughout the generations, and it's like a great way for it to like be done in a way that like is lasting. But anyways, to say like I'm excited to do this challenge, and I'm hoping to like read more diverse Palestinian authors, just because I think I've read a couple books now, but they were both nonfiction, and I haven't read any fiction, any poetry, any short stories. So I kind of have tried to intersperse like all of those different kind of genres in my reading plan for now, for the 2 weeks. But the first book I had was Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions: The Global Struggle for Palestinian Rights by Omar Baghouti. And I think it's just basically about BDS efforts and how they worked in South Africa, apartheid, in tearing down apartheid in South Africa, and how kind of the Palestinian people have used BDS as a tactic. I'm excited to learn more about the topics. I think like I understand it maybe from like a really high level overview, but like excited to kind of dive into more history and actual like theory regarding like the practices.
Okay, well, it's funny that you mentioned Rashid Khalidi, because my first book on my TBR for March is The 100 Years War in Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. You've read it, and a couple of our friends have read it. It has been on my TBR for a while, so this is the month I'm gonna get it done. I'm really excited. I do know that it is like kind of long, so I'll be starting it immediately. But I think it'll be a really good comprehensive like foundational text for this, which I think is like something that I've been lacking in the past couple of months. I'm really excited to read it.
I think one of the things that it does that, I mean, I haven't read a ton of other texts, but I think one thing it does really well and might do better than other texts is like just the sort of context from like the 1800s or like previous to like obviously like the modern era where we're seeing, yeah, like very overt like Zionism and wars being fought, and yeah, I think it provides really good context into like Zionism as a movement and the like various political agents and stuff that were involved in how we're seeing like the modern colonization. But yeah, I'm excited for you to read it and would love to hear your thoughts. Okay, the next book I had is Men in the Sun and Other Palestinian Stories. And this is a collection of short stories by Ghassan Kanafani. And yeah, it was published in 1998. And yeah, I don't know. I don't remember where I found this exactly. Maybe TikTok, but I don't know. I think it'd be really interesting to read such short, like a collection of short stories. And Kanafani is an activist and teacher, novelist, and yeah, it's only 117 pages as well. But I'm excited to dive in and explore some of, yeah, like his writing for the first time. And I believe he was also assassinated in an explosion in Beirut in 1972. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah, he was not able to continue his work, but yeah, hopefully that will be great.
Yeah. Okay, so my next one is River Dies of Thirst by Mahmoud Darwish, which I also think I found on TikTok, but it's like a collection of poems. And I think like that's something that I'm really trying to actively read more, because I do think that, yeah, I think especially like I don't read a lot of poetry. Like I think I usually read prose, and I think that it can really capture like, I don't know, like it can capture things about your experience, your connection to land, like in a way that you can't really express, or in a much more concise way than prose. And so like that being said, it is also a shorter read, for sure. Like I think it's like only this thin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited to read it.
Nice. Okay, yeah. My next one is also a collection of poetry.
Wow, so many collections.
Yeah, it's called Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear, Poems from Gaza by Mossab Abu Toha. And yeah, I think it's just a collection of poems about his life, and his experience growing up and living his entire life in Gaza. And yeah, it says these poems emerge from the experience of growing up and living in Gaza, making a life for one's family and raising a family in constant lockdown and often under direct attack. So I think just like, yeah, like a firsthand account of that experience and that narrative. And yeah, I'm really excited to read those poems.
Okay, my next one is also another collection, but this time it is of short stories. So it's called Gaza Writes Back, and it's actually like short stories from young writers in Gaza and Palestine. But it was like edited by Rafat Alarir, who is like a journalist slash writer. And I think I'm like really interested in that, just because I do think that, I don't know, like I think short story collections are good, but I also think that like specifically from the perspective of young people, it's like it will definitely be interesting, because I think a lot of the, I guess like suggestions that I've seen on TikTok are from people who are older, slash like adults, and yeah.
Okay, the next book I have is a nonfiction book, and it's called The Question of Palestine by Edward Said. I've read Orientalism by Edward Said, and yeah, it was like definitely a very foundational text, and something that was like, I just remember being cited a lot in a lot of my college courses. And I think in terms of like deep Palestinian authors who like have created foundational texts, like this is one of those texts. And I think Rashid Khalidi has taken a lot as well from Said as a mentor, and he's also like the Edward Said professor at Columbia as well, so really following in his footsteps in many ways. But yeah, the description says this original and deeply provocative book was the first to make Palestine the subject of a serious debate, one that remains as critical as ever. So yeah, really like landmark, really important text, bringing light to a lot of these issues, by Said, who is Palestinian. And yeah, I'm excited to just kind of adding on to the knowledge from like the 100 years war in Palestine, really expand hopefully my understanding of like a lot of these histories.
All right. So my next book is fiction. It's Against the Loveless World by Susan Abulhawa. And it's basically about this woman, Nahar, I might be mispronouncing her name, but it's like her reflections from solitary confinement in prison, like of how she ended up here. And basically she's like the daughter of Palestinian refugees, I think in Kuwait. And then she like, it goes through like her life and her dreams and like tragedies that end up happening in her life, after she also becomes a refugee from the Iraq War. And then basically like returning home to Palestine and then having to live under Israeli occupation and become imprisoned immediately. So I'm really excited to read that one. I think it is one of the only fiction books on the docket. But yeah.
Yeah, I also have that one on my list as well, and I think Ellie also had the next one that I'm going to talk about. Yeah, on her list as well. But yeah, the next one I'm going to talk about is Mornings in Jenin by Susan Abuhawa. And
she just has too many books.
Yeah. It has apparently like been compared to The Kite Runner. And yeah, it's basically talking about a family that in 1948 is moved to a refugee camp when the state of Israel is formed, and kind of through generations, like how that family's life is changed by occupation. And yeah, I think it's supposed to be, it's giving depressing for sure, or like just very traumatic, like 4 generations of trauma inflicted by Israeli occupation. But yeah, I'm excited to read that as well. My last one is The Butterfly's Burden by Mahmoud Darwish, and it's another collection of poetries. And yeah, it was published in 2006, and yeah, Darwish is supposed to be like a very foundational poet in the Arab world, and I think it's this specific poetry collection is a combination of 2 of his most recent volumes of texts. So yeah, I'm excited to read this collection as well, and I've heard really good things about this through maybe Instagram, TikTok, who knows. So I feel like, yeah, I'm excited just because I feel like we probably haven't read a lot of Palestinian or Arab texts in general. I hope the translations are like not bad, but yeah, I feel like the more we talk about it, I'm like excited for the month of reading, and I feel like it definitely will speak to like how diverse these authors and experiences are, even within the Palestinian experience.
Well, that's all we have for our March TBR.
Lots of books on the docket. Yeah,
lots of books on the docket. Thanks so much for watching.
Yes.
Please like and subscribe, and comment down below if you have any other suggestions. Like, I realized we actually did have a lot of repeat authors between us. So if you have any that you would suggest, please let us know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.